MP Westcott Williams on the District Councils of Parliament to discuss proposal for a community-driven district development fund for St. Martin. MP Ardwell Irian on the current state of national housing in St. Martin, Minister Gum's presentation. Les Marty's de Grand case on hold until further notice. How next-gen nuclear could help meet energy demands, and the risks involved. PBS News. From the island, St. Martin, this is SXM Daily News for March 31st, 2026.
Community identification. So, district residents and councils would identify specific, feasible projects, for example, beautification, lighting, small public amenities, playground rehabilitation, etc. That is key. A second key would be that there must be budget transparency. These projects must be publicly costed. For example, one could say within a range of 500 to 5,000 guilders or similar micro-project range, enabling clear understanding of funding needs and the progress. There should also be the possibility for public-private contribution, so individuals, businesses, community groups, and diaspora supporters may contribute financially or in kind towards specific district projects. And then the oversight. The oversight, and I suggested, but in our discussions with the SMDF, there might be a proposal for another oversight mechanism. But in my proposal, it is to start with the oversight by the SMDF, and they would act as fiduciary and administrative manager, ensuring sound financial management, compliance, and transparent implementation. And then, of course, the feasibility and reporting. I want to go back with the members of this committee to the establishment of the District Council Committee. At the time that this committee was established by Parliament, it was to engage the community councils with Parliament directly and to create a structure for community councils, district councils, based on which these councils will be formed. In the past, meetings were held with some of the community councils. At that time, the councils with which Parliament met were appreciative of the efforts to formalize and create a legal basis in our system for community councils. There should be, when it comes now to reporting, which is extremely important, a simple public reporting mechanism, something like an online dashboard or periodic updates, and that should show the project goals, funding status, and completion outcomes. By nature, I am a decentralist. A decentralist meaning I believe that we should empower lower organizations than government to be responsible for their communities. In order to make this possible, we need firm structures. We need guidelines based on which community councils or district councils are created and maintained. The objectives of this proposal is that, as I mentioned, we strengthen community participation and ownership of district development, to promote shared responsibilities between citizens, government, and private partners, to enhance the transparency and trust in small-scale public spending, and to deliver visible, quick impact improvements that uplift our districts. So, I want to reinforce with this committee the role of district councils as facilitators or participatory governance. And I'm suggesting to this committee that the idea of this district improvement proposal, that the committee endorses it for us to continue to the next step. And that endorsement is of a fund concept as a pilot initiative, and again, under the purview of the district councils. And also, I'm suggesting a formal invitation by this committee to the St. Martin Development Fund. Our invitation to the St. Martin Development Fund would be for them, this fund, this administration, and by the way, I am going to insert here that the St. Martin Development Fund was created as a successor to the different social organizations, public social organizations that existed before we became a constituent country in 2010. Some of you, and I'm sure from the public, many of you would recall foundations and agencies such as the AMFO, such as the USONA, and other agencies that had especially the social funding aspect within their organization. So again, the proposal is that we invite this committee and this foundation, actually, St. Martin Development Foundation, which, by the way, is funded by the government of St. Martin and has been funded from its creation. It has been funded. The St. Martin Development Fund was established with a clear policy, and their objectives were geared towards the elderly and the youth. Annual plans for these objectives were presented and are still being presented by the SMDF. And thus, I believe that this committee's first step to hear more and talk more about formalizing the structure of district councils would be to hear from the SMDF. And in addition to this, I also want to mention an organization like Empower. And they have been instrumental in bringing together the different NGOs on St. Martin, training these NGOs in order to administer the funds that, especially through the Netherlands, have been put towards social development on St. Martin.
Dr. Luc Merslina conveys his deepest condolences to the government and people of Suriname following the passing of former President Chandrika Prasad Santokhi. Prime Minister Merslina noted that former President Santokhi served his country with distinction and remained committed to the principles of democratic governance and regional cooperation. On behalf of the government and people of St. Martin, I extend sincere condolences to the family of former President Santokhi, as well as to the government and people of Suriname. His passing represents a moment of profound loss, and we stand in solidarity with Suriname during this period of national mourning, stated Prime Minister Merslina. The Prime Minister also acknowledged the presence and contribution of the Surinamese community in St. Martin, recognizing the impact of this loss beyond Suriname's borders. We also extend our sympathies to the Surinamese community in St. Martin, whose enduring cultural and familial ties to Suriname make this loss especially meaningful. During this difficult time, we stand with them in reflection and remembrance. Prime Minister Merslina further reflected on Santokhi's engagement within the Caribbean region and his contribution to strengthening partnerships among nations. Former President Santokhi will be remembered for his commitment to dialogue, cooperation, and the advancement of shared regional interests. His legacy will continue to resonate within the Caribbean community. The government of St. Martin joins the regional and international community in expressing condolences and honoring the life and service of a leader. Caption: Prime Minister Dr. Luc Merslina and former President Santokhi during a bilateral meeting between Suriname and St. Martin during the United Nations General Assembly 2024.
Your social and health insurance is your social and health insurances.
Are you SXM insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXM is cardless. Request your My SXM account today and enter the virtual office of SXM. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
Your social and health insurances.
Calypso Events, organizer of Les Marty's De Grand case, announced it has no option but to suspend. The event is as of today, Tuesday, March 31st, until further notice, as it has not received confirmation of the subventions announced and promised by the Collectivite for February and March 2026. In its response on Monday, the Collectivite noted with regret the announcement of the suspension of Les Marty's De Grand case, but wished to give a reminder that associative subsidies are governed by law and must be the subject of a sufficiently anticipated application. For several years, the Collectivite has been supporting Les Marty's De Grand case, both financially and logistically, which testifies to a constant and significant public commitment. A subsidy of €50,000 was awarded in 2024 and increased to €64,000 in 2025. That same year, including support from the St. Martin Tourism Office, public participation represented up to 64% of the overall budget of the event. As early as June 2025, the services of the Collectivite invited the organizing association to anticipate the submission of its subsidy application.
I have faith that the minister or the government has the ability to execute on the policy. Will be a stretch. I mean, we've had a lot of promises already. One, like the marketplace, that can't get done in over a year and change. So if you can't get one single marketplace done, I don't see how we're going to do 120 homes in a year. And in the presentation, Mr. Chairman, in the presentation, it was stated that the country lacks data. I think it was stated itself that the country lacks quality, consistent, up-to-date data. So on what exact demand model did the minister project or create this 1,200 homes? What data did you use then? if we ourselves say we don't have the data or trust the data, where does this number come from? And then we also have, the minister mentioned that 25% of the population is eligible for social homes. Okay, that would mean that 400, we should be targeting about 400 social homes a year. So why do 120? Why not do the target that we're supposed to meet based on the data given by the government? So any explanation on that? So we're saying that the number is 25%, so why not aim for that 25%? And if we can't aim for that 25% as a government, what is then the solution? Because then we're going to have the same thing again in 10 years that we didn't meet the demand, or we didn't supply the demand. And the reason why I am saying that is because I don't personally believe that we should only be focusing on social homes. In the minister's own press briefings, etc., the minister says our infrastructure is one thing. So if we're going to add, if the government is going to add 120 social homes, while every other person is still continuing to construct, right now I see like another apartment building going up 20 units, right? Where's the reality when it comes down to our infrastructure, or where they're going to go? And again, I think the more concerning thing for me, and I'm surprised that maybe more MPs didn't mention that, is that if we're saying that we have 25% of our population is in need of social homes, it says a lot about where we are at financially with our people, right? So I would prefer that we say, hey, we have to address the fact that 25% of our population can't afford not even an affordable home, because I want to make a distinction between an affordable home and a social home also. They're not the same. They're not the same. So that means we are in a very bad state because of 25%, and based on your presentation, the data might be even off, so it could be even 30%, right, of our population that is in need of a social home. So I believe then the government has to change their strategy, because we're not going to be able to supply that demand. We're not. It's unrealistic. So based on that alone, I can't then support the current housing policy. I can't. I think then we have to look at other models. First, we should look at increasing then maybe our salaries of our citizens so they can afford the homes that are already in the market. Because there are a lot of homes in the market right now, but it's unattainable for them. So one, maybe we didn't have to look at salaries. We now have to look at wage tax, income tax, because that allows a person with a salary that they have right now, if we lower that, to be able to afford things that are currently on the market and are currently coming on the market. Because construction cost is not going to decrease. And we didn't see that, and no data was presented here on that. When we're talking about building homes over 10-year periods, we're not considering inflation costs, we're not considering the inflation, the price of material. So the affordability for government to be able to meet this demand in 10 years, I think is unrealistic. Like I said, there's almost no project that was mentioned in the last 2 years is off the ground now. None. We've seen right now the Iran war, oil prices are increasing. I saw one shipping company saying a container going for 400 to 1,002 by April. So that means all goods are increasing. Government doesn't have a track record of being able to build, right, and finish on time. So I think with that regard, the numbers are totally off. And I believe that as a government and as a parliament, it's also our responsibility to say, hey, is it realistic for us to meet this demand? No, it's not. We already have the professionals in the field building homes. Maybe we should take a model like the Netherlands, and maybe it might even be cheaper. Maybe, or like the French side, maybe we have to give a subsidy for housing. That model might be a lot cheaper. So those are, I think as a government, we have to set an example and, hey, we got to think deeper into this housing policy. There's a lot more things we have to think about, right? We have to say, as a Ministry of Environment, we have presented a housing policy. We have backed this housing policy up by data by the Ministry of TIAD, the Ministry of VSR, right? Maybe this is the financial components over the next 10 years for us to be able to create these houses. It might make more financial sense for us to say we're going to give a $200 subsidy to every individual that is in need, that then can afford a home in the market. So, and it's going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to now the Minister of VSR coming on board to have the discussion about our social housing.
Now for the weather forecast. Tonight through Wednesday midday, partly cloudy and occasionally breezy with isolated showers. Surface winds. Today through Wednesday midday, northeasterly to east. Northeasterly with a gentle to moderate breeze at 8 to 14 miles per hour. State of the SEA, moderate waves/swells, 5 to 7 feet. Outlook through Thursday midday, partly cloudy and breezy with isolated showers. And now your 3-day forecast.
Your social and health insurance is your social and health insurances.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
Your social and health insurances.
"25 miles west of Knoxville, Tennessee, a construction site designed to spark a nuclear power renaissance.
This is the site where Kairos Power is currently building the only nuclear reactor under construction in the United States right now.
First step for Kairos, Mike Laufer's startup, a demo of a small modular reactor called Hermes, as in this rendering, being built right where the nuclear age was born.
Oak Ridge became into existence because of the Manhattan Project. So this is K25.
Historian Ray Smith says 80 years ago, this very area housed the vast complex that made the stuff of atomic bombs.
All of the highly enriched uranium the nation has today.
For weapons, that is. But by the time I was in school, the atom was our friend.
I give you the magic fire of the atom.
On TV's Disneyland series, for example. touting the switch from nuclear threat to nuclear promise. Then came 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, Fukushima. Safety regulations and complex new technologies hamstrung development, causing long delays, huge cost overruns. Today, there are 54 nuclear plants in the U.S. Most, however, were built long ago, average age 42 years. So says CEO Mike Laufer.
Our Hermes demonstration reactor is going to be the first reactor that Kairos builds.
It's time for new nuclear.
It's clean, it's reliable. If done correctly, it can certainly be affordable.
Now, the Hermes reactor is much smaller than current nuclear plants.
The big benefit of small is that it reduces the cost, the total cost, the amount of money that needs to go in.
As in older reactors, atoms of uranium-235 will split apart. That chain reaction produces heat, usable energy.
That uranium is packaged in these golf ball-sized graphite balls. Each one of these contains about 16,000 tiny poppy seed-sized particles of uranium. That's where that splitting is happening. The uranium in each one of these balls produces about as much power as about 4 tons of coal.
Balls more efficient than the nuclear rods of old. But a key difference from the usual big reactors, a special molten salt transfers the heat instead of water. Another distinction, modules are built in a New Mexico factory, then assembled at the site.
A really big feature of our deployment model is really trying to take the Henry Ford model.
Chief Technology Officer Ed Blanford studied nuclear engineering with Mike Laufer at UC Berkeley.
How do we take the construction site, bring it into more of an assembly line environment, and really be able to get that repetitive learning that you could do in an indoor factory environment?
The goal, faster construction, lower cost.
It's really a combination of being able to leverage this equipment modularity, so building the equipment in Albuquerque, and then we're also leveraging precast construction. Concrete elements come here and then they get installed very quickly.
Like Legos.
Like Legos, that's exactly right.
The work they're doing now is on a demo without nuclear fuel. Next, a demo with nuclear fuel, getting more of the kinks out. After that, the real thing.
Build the same thing over and over again so that the construction process gets faster, and that's really how we're going to drive down the overall cost for nuclear power.
One true believer, Google, which has signed on to purchase power from Kairos beginning in 2030.
We're starting with 50 megawatts and then extending to a total of 500 megawatts by 2035.
Google's Lucia Tien says the company is investing in all kinds of carbon-free energy to fuel its data centers and meet its net zero emissions target by 2030.
We know that as electricity demand grows, we're going to need to grow nuclear power alongside with it. The wind doesn't always blow and the sun doesn't always shine. You need sources like nuclear that provide that steady flow of electrons that fills the gaps.
Kairos will send power to the federally owned Tennessee Valley Authority's grid.
It's so important to have this diversification of a portfolio that one fuel isn't drive everything.
Chief Nuclear Officer Matt Rasmussen says TVA is investing heavily in new fission nuclear, like Kairos, and even in nuclear fusion, though that's still a long way off.
So what you're seeing here is the retired Bull Run fossil plant, but what you see behind us is what the future potentially looks like, which is the development of a Type 1 fusion energy reactor here at Bull Run.
This is yesterday, that's tomorrow.
That's correct.
That's being called the Manhattan Project 2.0.
In the last 5 years, some $10 billion has been invested in all manner of nuclear development at Oak Ridge.
Small modular reactors being built. We've got centrifuges coming in that are going to be enriching uranium, a laser process that's going to be enriching uranium. We've got the TRISO-X that's going to be creating fuel for molten salt reactors.
So, all good, right? Well, as usual, not so fast.
Nuclear reactors are like rocket science. They're difficult, they're complex.
And historically, they've cost billions of dollars, says former Nuclear Regulatory Commission Chair Allison McFarland.
It will take huge sums to bring these technologies to commercial viability. The small modular reactor developers are saying, well, we'll just build them in a factory. But factory production is not necessarily easy. Westinghouse tried to build the large reactors that just turned on in Georgia in a factory, and they had massive problems that led to their bankruptcy.
Those reactors came in $17 billion over budget and 7 years late.
5 minutes before critical mass.
Critical what?
And in addition to the costs and technical challenges, there are the safety concerns.
We're doomed!
Sector 7G is now being isolated.
As lampooned on The Simpsons. And new reactors like Hermes also carry risks. Radioactive leaks, where to put the waste, or so says Edwin Lyman of the Union of Concerned Scientists.
Every design that I've looked at has potential safety and security vulnerabilities which are not being addressed to the extent that they need to be.
Lyman thinks regulators are going too fast in approving new projects.
The Nuclear Regulatory Commission has been under tremendous pressure from the nuclear industry and from Congress to accelerate licensing of new and novel types of reactors. And the problem is that with new reactors, they introduce new safety concerns and new technical issues, and sometimes you can't resolve them in a short period of time.
Kairos's Laufer, however, insists safety is a central focus of his.
For us, that means making sure that these fuel pebbles remain where they're supposed to be, and they're surrounded by the proper shielding to protect the plant workers and also to protect the public as well.
And the TVA's Rasmussen believes nuclear power is safer than ever.
One of the safest energies out there. We have one of the lowest industrial accident rates of any industry in the world.
40% of TVA power, he says, already comes from nuclear in a part of the country that's unafraid of it.
Tell me what city you have that would not allow a Target store to come in, would not listen to the idea of having a racetrack built, but are happy to have nuclear reactors in their city.
And outside investors are pouring billions into it. But McFarland isn't buying it. So you yourself, assuming you had this kind of money, wouldn't invest in these things?
No, absolutely not.
Because?
I don't think they're going to be successful.
Mike Laufer, however, plans to prove her wrong, starting small, building bit by bit.
So when we go say, we're going to deliver these power plants at this cost and at this schedule, people will be able to believe that we can actually do it.
So after all that, would you invest? For the PBS NewsHour, Paul Salman in Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
This is our SXM Daily Newscast. Thank you for joining us.